All right, this is Coach Schofield, and now I'm going to be going over with you the Schofield Sports Performance Youth Program, which is powered by the Parisi Speed School. So here we go. So a little overview of the program itself. Our youth program, which is called our Jumpstart program, is powered by the Parisi Speed School. It's meant for athletes ages 8 to 12 years of age. It's a membership-based program, and it is group training. So we take up to 12 kids in a class. The program, again, is our Jumpstart program, which is a combination of linear speed, change of direction, strength, power, and conditioning. The classes themselves are an hour in length and follow a very structured format, which I'll go over in more detail in a bit. So a little background about the Parisi Speed School. We've been part of the Parisi Speed School since 2008. It is a youth athletic development model that has been around for over 30 years. It was founded by Bill Parisi, and it's a proven systemized approach to youth sports performance and athletic development. Their model has trained over 1 million athletes, first round picks in every major sport. So I always go through with people like, this is a proven system of training, not just some wishy-washy model to go out there and make kids tired. What I really love about the Parisi Speed School is their vision and mission. Their vision is to empower America's youth through increased fitness, confidence, and performance. And their mission, as the industry leader in performance enhancement, we will continue to deliver a positive training experience that improves speed of movement and strength of character, regardless of ability or economic status. So really, like, the Parisi Speed School began with Bill Parisi, who started out as an undersized football player in high school and gradually kind of built himself into a javelin athlete in track and field. And his goal became to break the world record in the javelin. So ultimately, what Bill did is he traveled around once he got to college, seeking out like the best people as it relates to training. And so much so that he actually fundraised and sent himself over to Finland. And over there, that's where all the top javelin throwers trained. And over there, their methodology was completely different than what we had in the US. And he spent over an entire summer there using things like medicine balls and progressive training and different speed techniques, and had all this knowledge that he gained from training with these folks. He then went on and competed in the Olympic trials and missed the Olympic Games by one throw for about a foot. So Bill went on and he had all this knowledge about how to train athletes. And he's like, well, how can I turn this into a business? So he moved back home after he graduated college, lived in his parents' basement, and started this business. And back then, right, sports performance was not a thing, right? Like, training athletes for speed, you're either fast or you're not. Girls' strength training, you got to be kidding me. And, he'd actually tried to do like clinics for coaches, and they would slam the door in his face. But gradually, he offered a free clinic, got a couple of coaches, then a couple of athletes, and slowly built the business from there, in which he ended up opening up the Wyckoff facility here, which was his very first facility. And from there, things grew exponentially. Right? He then went on to open up over 100 locations across the U.S. Training, as I said earlier, over 1 million athletes, first round picks in every major sport. When you look at like who we worked with, from the NBA to NHL, NFL, where Bill's a national spokesman for the NFL Strength and Conditioning Association, the UFC, Major League Baseball. And has strategic partners with all the major venues related to strength and conditioning, from the NSCA to Train Heroic, Perform Better, the Professional Football Strength and Conditioning Society, Atlantic Sports Health. So Parisi Speed School has a really proven systemized method of athletic development, and that's why we utilize their system. Now, what I'm going to explain here is the athlete training paradigm, or really our training philosophy around developing athletes. because how we develop athletes in this country is fundamentally flawed. And we've been doing it for years. So here's how we do it. So during the soccer season, you know, our athletes spend 70% of their time working on just soccer skills, right? They learn to kick the ball with their right foot, the left foot, passing the ball, kicking the ball in the goal, dribbling it off their head. And then they move into basketball season and they work on the skill of that sport, dribble with the right hand, left hand, passing, shooting the ball, foul shots, right? And then we move into baseball season with an entirely different set of skills, working on fielding the ball, catching the ball, pitching, hitting. But the problem is we're never really rounding ourselves out or developing ourselves as athletes. We're just working on the skill of the sport. And if you look at the travel sports industry and how it's exploded, this is all they do, right? Then we might spend 20% of the time actually work on the sports knowledge component, right? So we work on, hey, what's the offense? What's the defense? What's the strategy? What's the history? What are my stats? And then we might spend 10% of our time on working on what actually makes us a good athlete. Strength, speed, power, endurance, flexibility, injury resilience, self-confidence, right? And most of the time, this isn't even done right, right? An athlete's idea of like getting themselves prepared for sport is running a couple of miles before preseason so they don't puke on the first day. But this has led us to a whole host of problems, which I'll go over to in a few minutes. But not only that, but we have countries that don't subscribe to this model that blow our doors off. And here we are, some of the most developed countries in the entire world, yet we still haven't really figured out the right way to develop athletes until you come to the system that we model ourselves after, right? So when we look at athletic development, we look at it in the form of a pyramid, right? And when you're looking at the form of the pyramid, if I want to make a pyramid bigger and make it grow, which part of it am I going to work on first? Of course, the foundation, right? Like any budding architect will tell you, like the base is what we need to expand first, and then we build structure on top of it. And your base or your foundation of as an athlete, regardless of your sport, is strength, speed, power, agility, endurance, flexibility, coordination, injury resilience, self-confidence, right? This is what makes us a great athlete. Right? When we have high levels of this stuff right here, we're not just good at soccer. All of a sudden, we're good at many sports, right? This is our athleticism, right? So the bigger we build these things, the more of the skill component we can stack on top of it, right? But without high levels of these things, we'll never reach our true potential, right? You look at some of the best athletes out there. Look at LeBron James, right? If you take LeBron James and he's a complete skinny weakling and has no strength, is like, does he even able to kind of drive down the court and do the things he does without getting knocked off the ball? Of course not. But let's say, hey, yeah, he's got plenty of strength, but he lacks, agility. Well, he can't cut with the way he needs to, and so everybody's catching up to him and playing defense, and he's not scoring. Is he even in the NBA without that? Or what if, like, hey, he's got all these skills, but as soon as he steps into, over playing the Boston Celtics, right? And he's like, oh my God, all these people are booing me. I can't take it, right? Like, he's never going to be at the potential or the athlete he is today without high levels of all these things. And your best athletes have high levels of this stuff, and that's what makes them not good at just one sport, but at multiple sports. And if you think back of when you played sports back in high school, like your best athletes weren't just great at one sport. They did it across multiple sports, and any good coach will tell you they would rather have, a number of athletes that have high levels of this stuff and not necessarily the skill, because they know they can improve the skill if they've got athleticism. So for us, what we say is we want you to spend 60% of your time working on your athletic foundation. And then 30% of your time should be spent on working on the skill of the sport. And then finally 10% working on the sports knowledge. The best athletic development programs in the world follow this model, and that's what we do. You should know this cold, this piece right here, because this, when you explain it to parents and coaches, they get it. Often they understand that the need for their son or daughter to improve these skills right here, but they don't understand necessarily like the whys. This gives you your why. So why do kids need this program? When you look at kids today, like they've got all kinds of challenges. There's so many things that are working against them, right? We got more kids are playing more organized sports than ever before. But yet, over 30% of our kids, and that number is probably closer to 40%, are overweight, with 17% considered obese. You don't believe me? Go walk around a high school, and I will show you the complete lack of fitness going on in our country. Or go walk around Disney World. You will see what I'm talking about, right? Phys ed has completely declined in schools. Kids get it maybe twice a week for their first 2 years of high school, and that's it. And today's kids are the least fit in our country's history. Inactivity is killing our kids. PE programs are being cut. They've been greatly reduced since COVID. Technology is killing our kids' activity levels. We got more kids playing sports than ever before, but yet the kids are less fit. Like what happened to all the bikes out there? And what's the end result of all that? Right? Injury rates are an all-time high. There's over 3 million sports-related injuries per year, and over 50% of those are non-contact injuries. That means they're completely preventable, right? 75% of kids drop out of organized sports by the time they reach high school, right? So if you think back, like all those kids that you played Little League with or softball or youth sports, by the time they get to high school and they're no longer kind of like getting time, out on the court or on the field, like they're just like, yeah, I'm done. I don't want to play anymore, right? Because they can go be a hero on social media or on video games, And then there's a complete lack of low self-esteem and confidence. There's a complete rise in depression in kids. And what's it map back to? The complete lack of activity amongst kids, across this country. And we're here to do something about it. And often, parents are like, well, everybody's looking for somebody to blame. Well, whose fault is it? Right? Is it the teacher's fault? Like, are they to blame, like, for the lack of activities? Or, is it the poor nutrition? But like, well, if it's poor nutrition, like, who's buying them the food? If you don't want to eat junk food, then don't put it in the pantry. Is it technology? Well, who's buying them the phones? Is it media? Well, who's giving the exposure to that? Oh, it's the coach's fault my kid's not getting playing time. Coaches, yes, some play favorites, but for the most part, coaches want to win. They want to put the best kids out there that can play. And if your kid's not in shape, right, they're not necessarily going to put them out there. Is it the siblings' fault? Is it the professional athletes and their influence? Is it the peers? At the end of the day, the true gatekeeper who influences all of this is the parent, right? So it's the parent, and often they need help with this because there's so much going on and so much keeping them busy. So I don't tell you all this to kind of paint a horror show of kind of like what's going on in our country, but what I can tell you is that we want to be part of the solution, And so, who's part of the solution? What's part of the solution? You as the coach, you're the solution with this program that you're going to make kids part of and go and deliver great sessions and help deliver them this confidence and the strength and the speed that they need. What I love about the Parisi Speed School is the core mission. When you look at it, when athletes come to see us, right? This is why their parents bring them to us, right? They think, hey, we're here to kind of teach them, give them more speed and strength and agility and acceleration, flexibility, nutrition, help them lose weight if they need it, prevent injuries, enhance their on-field performance. This is what they're expect out of us, and this is our core competency. This is what we're very, very good at. But you want to know what we're really doing here? What we're really doing here is this. We're teaching life skills. We're teaching honesty, work ethic, self-discipline. We're giving them confidence, teaching them the importance of responsibility and healthy food choices and leadership and teamwork. That is what we're delivering in each and every one of our sessions. You as a coach should be trying to deliver this every single time in front of your kids. Because you know what? There's no class in high school on any of this stuff right here, right? And, even peer-reviewed research, supports this. Teens who take part in physical activity, particularly with their parents, are less likely to get involved in drinking, drugs, violence, smoking, sex, and delinquency than teens who spend a lot of time in front of the television or in front of their phone. And here's Pediatrics, April 2006. And that's just one of thousands of peer-reviewed journals that support the importance of exercise with kids. All right, so the first step in the process for getting an athlete started in this program is an evaluation, right? For us, we think it's unethical to train anybody without some type of evaluation, without knowing anything about them. So the evaluation itself, it's a series of tests designed to identify athletic weaknesses and areas of development, right? We're going to perform the 10, the 20, the 40-yard dash, vertical jump, 5, 10, 5 agility, 5-hop broad jump, and chin-ups. That's the Parisi evaluation. I have an entire module on how to go and perform this, which you'll get at a separate time. So how the process works. Both the parent and the athlete are going to be present for the evaluation. You will bring them in, you're going to give them a tour of the facility, show them around, show them different equipment, show them the different athletes working out, so they get a sense of kind of the culture and how things work around here. From there, the parents are going to go sit up at the bar, they're going to fill out some paperwork, and you're going to bring the athlete out on the field and bring them through a warm-up. Once you finish the warm-up, then you're going to bring them through the series of tests, and at the end, you're then going to finish the scoring that's associated with it, which I'll go over in a minute, and go over the results, make your prescription, a recommendation about what they should do to kind of improve the areas that they need to improve in, and from there, the athletes sign up. So each one of the evaluation tests has a score associated with it. So if an athlete does the 10-yard dash in 1.68 seconds, that'll equal a score of like 68 points. And so each test that they have, the 10, the 20, the 40, the vertical jump, 500 broad jump, 5, 10, 5, and chin-ups, each one's going to have a score. You're going to total up that score, and that is going to put them on our CAT Club board, which is our ranking board, right? This is like our martial arts belt system for our athletes. So each athlete has a score associated with their performance in the evaluation, and ideally after they've been with us for several months, we're going to retest them and they should move up on the board. It's a fantastic way to motivate these kids to continue to train and get better and better. So the program itself, right? It's a performance youth fitness based training system that consists of speed, movement training, and strength. Really, it's an entire, system that has, strength, flexibility, balance, injury prevention, which is critical, and it should really be named like the Schofield Injury Prevention Program, but like that backs any type of sizzle. So we go with Parisi Speed School or Youth Performance Program. Ideally, as these kids go through our program and continue to develop, it leads to greater self-confidence and better performance, not just in sports, but at school and also in life. When you talk to parents and you talk to them about the impact this program is having on their kids, they will often tell you, like, all of a sudden this kid's completely changed, right? They're doing better in school. They're more cooperative at home, right? Like, it has lasting impacts on all areas of their lives. So the youth program itself, right? Their classes, not appointments. Unlike our peak program, which is appointments, this is a class-based model. So it's 1 hour in length. It's run by a coach from start to finish. right? The max class size is 12 kids, and the class focus type changes from day to day, right? So we can have one day it will be acceleration, the next day it will be top speed, next day it could be change of direction, and then it could be total conditioning. And then we also have Jumpstart 2 Strength, which is a separate class for 11 and 12-year-olds. The parents schedule classes using our Wellness Living app, and they just go in there and sign their kids up for when it works, the day of the week that it works for them. So the class structure, again, what's great about this, it follows a very structured format, which is important when you're working with kids, because the more you let kids kind of sit around and give them idle time, that's when you start getting fool around time, right? Not only does it make your job exponentially harder, but parents don't like that look. So it's important to keep these kids moving at all times. So how it works, it's kind of set up into quarters, right? Especially 4 quarters. The first quarter is the active dynamic warm-up. So what we're going to be doing, it enhances overall movement efficiency, conditioning, and strength. Has 3 sections: the stationary movement and ground activation, moving into running progressions, and once it's finished, it's going to have a water break, right? Next, we're going to work on our anchor drills. So those drills are there to implement a motor program. The goal is to have them perform them with a high level of efficiency. So let's say we're running acceleration, right? I'm then going to have them work on our anchor drills, which is like the wall drive drill. So and you're just going to instruct them, hey, I need the body at 45 degrees, the knee thigh high, toe up. And you're going to reinforce those positions, right, with specific drills. The coach is going to provide a tremendous amount of feedback, both verbally and tactily, as well as visually, as well as, once that athlete, we work through those drills, we're then going to take another water break. Then we move into the third quarter. So now we're going to take it into a specific application. So now we may take it into like a 10-yard sprint from various starting positions, whether it's from a 3-point stance, a lateral stance, So now it gives these athletes the ability to kind of work on this specific drill in a real world or sport specific drill, right? And again, one more break, and then finally we finish it off with some sort of challenge or conditioning, right? And it's the coach kind of determines that prior to the class, but again, it should be fun, should be active, should continue to keep the kids moving, and then we finish off the class. So that's how the structure of the class overall works. It's 4 quarters. Again, when you look at a warm-up, the warm-up itself is really a workout, right? It's about 15 minutes in length. It's a good blend of, different types of movement. The goal is to increase blood flow and core temperature, and basically has a stationary component, which is like jumping jacks, seal jacks, body weight squats. It's then they're going to move into movement, where we're going to work on like marching drills and skipping and lateral shuffles, right? Working on the deceleration component. And then finally with ground activation. So working more on like single leg bridges and straight leg raises, core strength. So, really like the warm up is kind of like our kata. It's how we train the martial athlete, right? We're going to repeatedly do these same drills until we get perfection. We're looking for these kids to get the black belt in all of these different areas. So movement skill methods, we're going to work on acceleration. Acceleration is the ability to reach maximum speed in the shortest time distance possible. Top speed, so once we've reached top speed, like how great are you at maintaining it, right? Change of direction, the ability to accelerate, decelerate, and reaccelerate in any direction without losing speed or balance. And then finally, deceleration component, where we're working on the brakes of the entire engine and teaching kids how to decelerate properly to prevent injury. Then with strength and total conditioning classes, ideally what we're doing is this program develops good exercise habits, movement awareness. We use different modalities in this class, whereas we're working with like medicine balls and resistance bands and partner body weight exercises and ladders and plyometrics and range of motion exercises, right? We're not working barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, that sort of thing in here, right? It's just to begin to kind of introduce them to basic strength training. Jumpstart 2 is a separate class, right? Within our Jumpstart program, it's for 11 to 12-year-olds. They're the ones that are eligible. No one under that age is allowed, right? We're going to perform a modified active dynamic warm-up, and then we'll do some short focus speed work. It's going to be much less volume than what we do in our actual speed classes, but enough to reinforce mechanics, right? And then it's going to be beginner strength training using body weight and athlete appropriate resistance. For example, dumbbells, kettlebells, cables, with constant coaching and supervision by our coaches. In this class, we're not chasing heavy weight. We're building great technique, safe progressions, and athletes who can train hard, play hard, and stay healthy. We want to begin to kind of teach them how to properly strength train as a great prerequisite to our peak program. Athletes that take part in this class for 2 consecutive months are eligible for peak accelerated on-ramp when they turn 13, right? So our normal on-ramp program is 18 sessions in length. If they do this program for at least 2 months, they're eligible for our accelerated on-ramp program, which is only 6 sessions in length. So youth program packages and pricing, how it works. So like I said, the first step in that process is a youth evaluation. It's an hour-long session. It's a prerequisite for every athlete in our program, and it requires both the parent and an athlete to be present. We charge $85 for that. If siblings come, 2 kids, we give them a little price break and we charge $140. Different packages we offer. So each package is a 4-week or 28-day membership. It renews and payments are every 28 days until the membership is canceled. In order to cancel, they need to give us a 2-week notice. The membership itself cannot be put on hold. We have 3 different options. We've got a 2-week, 8-session membership, or 2 times a week, 8-session membership for $199. So that means they can come up to 8 sessions every 4 weeks, right? Unused sessions do not roll over. And then we have unlimited. So athletes can come in as many times they want over the course of the 4 weeks for $269. And then we have drop-in rates, so athletes can just drop in, and that's $30 per session. We also have a 12-week membership, which is $249 per month. So they make payments every 4 weeks. The membership does not auto-renew at the end. They can place holds on this due to injury or illness for a maximum of 6 weeks. The payments will continue while they're on hold, and the expiration date of the membership is extended by the number of days on hold. A 2-week cancellation notice is required and cannot cancel while they're on the hold. We also offer one-on-one private training for those athletes that are looking for it. We have a 2 times a week per option, or 8-session pass, which is $640, or 3 times per week, 12-session pass, which is $960. The passes expire after 4 weeks and auto renews when the client uses all of their sessions or upon expiration, whichever comes first. Designing and delivering classes. So we have class workout templates. Each class has a written template, which is laminated. A running class will require some preparation by the coach, right? So you're going to have to renew, you're going to have to go over and see, hey, this is the class I'm running today based upon the calendar, right? Make sure they have the appropriate drills. Make sure that you've planned for the challenge or conditioning that you're going to run, as well as any special drills that you're going to run within it. You're going to want to also connect with other coaches about space needs. Make sure you review the workout well ahead of time. Set up any necessary equipment ahead of time. And the coaches will determine sets and reps for each given exercise. In terms of coaching delivery, right? The same class will be run at each time on that day. So if we're running more than one jump start, like say we're running a 5 p.m. jump start class and we're also running a 6, the 5 p.m. class, what we go over in there, say it's acceleration, we will also teach acceleration in the 6 p.m. class. Just keep in mind, like these classes require a different set of skills than our peak athletes, which is 13 and up, right? You got to smile, okay? You got to have fun. You got to really coach. You got to be a coach. Remember that each exercise has a start and a finish. So you need to tell the class, each one, like say you're doing jumping jacks, you're going to say, hey, jumping jacks, 10 of them, ready, begin. 1, 2, and you're going to call it out and have the same cadence, all right? And you're going to then finish it. So every single exercise has a start and a finish. So you're really leading and coaching these athletes, right? You need clear, concise instructions. Like I said, ready, begin, right? So, and you're doing the same thing each time. You got to establish and maintain exercise tempo. So what I typically do is I'm going to look at one athlete and do my counting. If you try to jump around from athlete to athlete, your tempo is going to get messed up, right? You want common tendencies to go way too fast, right? Slow down. Allow these kids to get good quality reps in when they're doing each exercise, right? You got to be confident. You got to have a strong voice. You can't just sit there and be like, all right, ready, begin, because no one's going to listen to you, right? And they can't hear you because it's very loud inside the facility. So you got to be a coach. You got to have a strong voice. You're putting on the show, right? Positive body language, clapping, high fives, fist bumps, right? Make this the funnest part of any kid's day. Maintaining eye contact, right? Looking kids in the eye, right? Throughout the entire session, not just looking at the ground or looking all around. Show that you're actually interested in their development and what you're doing, right? Make corrections. Usually you want to correct at least one athlete per exercise. Not the same athlete necessarily, but you want to be making corrections. That's coaching. Do not just let an athlete sit there and do the exercise with terrible technique or do it wrong over and over and over and over again. That's not great coaching. That's laziness coaching. That's just trying to get a paycheck and get out of there, right? If you want to be a great coach, you've got to deliver great coaching sessions and have an impact. Correcting athletes so things look tight and look great, right, is imperative. Remember, you're going to be doing this class right up at the top of the turf in front of all the parents. You're on stage. Make it a great show. Again, a couple other things about coaching delivery. Distance management. Don't be too far. You don't need to be right on top of them, right? But you shouldn't be trying to coach from a huge distance away, right? Have an opening ritual. I'm always one, hey, I'm going to give them a big fist pump. Hey, you ready to go? You ready to go? You ready to go? Like fist pump, high fives, whatever your opening ritual is, make sure you have one. Just don't be like, okay, here we go, right? You got to connect with the kids first, right? Greet each athlete. You say their name. Organize the athletes, right? Explain the focus of the session. Hey, today we're going to be going over acceleration. Anybody know what acceleration is? That's right, Johnny. Acceleration is the ability to reach maximum speed in the shortest time distance possible. Introduce any new athletes to the group, right? Hey, everybody, guess who's here? Johnny's here today. He's brand new, plays football, baseball, basketball. Big round of applause. Boom. And away you go. Have a closing ritual, right? Get them all together. Have them say, hey, Schofield on 3, or whatever it is you want to do, right? But everybody's in, everybody uses a strong voice, everybody's connected. Have a closing ritual for the class. Use every athlete's name multiple times. Have fun. Remember, for many kids, this is the best part of their day, right? Most of them have sat in school all day, been bored out of their minds, right? And a lot of them, they're like, dude, I can't wait to get Parisi. I can't wait to get in front of Stan and work with Stan today. Or I can't wait to see who's my coach today and what we're going to learn, right? You never know what's going on at home with these kids either, right? Like they may not have the best home life, right? Their parents may be arguing. Parents may be like right on top of them nonstop, right? They could be getting bullied, right? but this is the part of their day they look the most forward to. Make it the best part of their day. Be the coach you either had or dreamed of having when you were a kid, right? As I always like to say, we all had those coaches that were just jerks. They didn't believe in us. They didn't give us the time of day. They never gave us the playing time we deserved. They never recognized our achievements that we did. And on the other side, you also probably had coaches that were outstanding. They believed in you. They helped develop you. They mentored you. They actually took the time to develop you as an athlete and as a person, right? Which one of those do you want to be? Which one of those do you want to be remembered as, right? Be that coach. Have an impact and be the example, right? You want to be a great coach, man, you better look like one. You should be working out. You should be working out 3, 4, 5 days a week. You should be in phenomenal shape. You should be able to demonstrate every exercise with precision and give every kid a clear example of what to do and give them a clear leadership about, like, hey, this is what being a great athlete, this is what being American, this is what it looks like, right? Be that role model. You have that opportunity in front of these kids and having an impact on all those things I talked about at the beginning, where we've got a country that's severely overweight, injuries are rampant, and mental illness at an all-time high, man. You can help reverse that. All it takes is just the effort and delivering great sessions. You have the best job in the world. Because the reality is, man, you're not selling coaching. You're not selling strength or power or anything like that. You know what you do? You sell self-esteem to kids. Tell me a better job in the world than that. Because there isn't. So that's the presentation for today on our youth performance program. There's a couple other modules related to how to actually sell and do the evaluation, which you'll see in the future.